Hello, Michael Green. Welcome to the Stuart Cohen Show.
Thank you so much, sir.
I'm glad you came to be with us today. I understand you are recently back from your first ever river cruise experience. And as friends and business partners, I was blown away by the level of detail and experiences that you had that were extraordinary, especially you, because you not only enjoy great food and wine, but you teach it and preach it.
I teach it, I preach it, and I live it. Food and drink is the ultimate connector. And full disclosure, Stuart, I came to the cruise category late in my career when I was with Gourmet Magazine. And when I went on board AmaWaterways, that was my first river cruise. And I am now not a customer of AmaWaterways. I am an advocate. The experience was so special. Sure, the food and drink was 5-star. That didn't surprise me. Mm-hmm. But it was the level of service and the intimacy and how indirectly or subtextually this cruise line used experiential marketing through the substrate of hospitality to give not only me, but I know virtually everyone on that ship something that I call that magical moment. That magical moment. And it was truly a blessing.
Yeah. Now, I'm fascinated by this as your biggest first takeaway. Cruising is, as are most vacations, there's the hardware aspect and the software. The hardware being the ship and the facilities, which we'll get to, and the software being the people, also known as the experience. Give us some examples, because just hearing the words experience, we don't really know. Give us an anecdote. Tell us a story that just exceeded your expectations and that really touched you.
Stuart, there were so many, but I want to touch upon a few. Number one, the experience beyond the staff and the team, which I'll get to in a moment. It started off with the people that were on the ship. They were lovely, regardless of where they came from, regardless of their financial situation. They were ready to embark on an adventure. And this adventure was beyond being first class. As you know, being on a river cruise, given the size, the smaller size of the ship, gives you the opportunity to not feel like you are part of a huge cattle call, like you sometimes feel like you're on larger ships. And so everything, getting to know so many of the guests who were lovely, uniformly lovely. Right. And the idea that there was an intimacy with the lounge and with the dining experience, that you really felt that you were taken care of. And the idea of luxury can mean so many things to so many people. It can be comfort, it can be extravagance, and there was something special for everyone. But I want to now touch upon the crew and the team. There should be an award in the cruise category for best level of service, at the very least in the river cruise category, because everyone from the stateroom attendant to the chef, and the chef, by the way, got to know everyone on this trip.
Really?
Made the experience even more memorable. But I have to tell you, and you and I have talked a lot about this, a cruise director is really the master of ceremonies and can ultimately create the style and the feel and the emotion of this trip, which for me was from Amsterdam to Basel. Okay. And I told you, we talked, you and I, a lot about the idea of a special moment. And I know that he gave special moments to so many people beyond the wonderful itineraries that AmaWaterways created. And so the cruise director, Sebastien Leroy, is a deserves a huge shout out. And I know you've told me that every cruise director on AMA Waterways is spectacular. But for me, everyone from the stateroom attendant to the wait staff to the cruise director made this trip really, really memorable.
That sounds special because the people, more important than anything else, leave an impact on you. They become a remarkable experience, and you remember them for a lifetime. Give us a taste, a flavor of what you experienced on board and on land too. Were they connected at all? Were there new flavors, new tastes? You are a foodie. I know you love food. Give us a feel for what that's about.
Well, I won't go into details of all the foie gras that I consumed, or the glorious veal and venison, all the wonderful food and the wonderful drink. But I do want to tell you that one of the things that was very special, and I was somewhat skeptical, were some of the offshore excursions. Because when I've taken offshore excursion before, they're generally very, very large groups, and you're sort of shuffled in and out with large buses and all this stuff. Right. And here they broke the groups down. And what AMA Waterways has done is that they have partnered in these different on these different destinations in these ports when you're experiencing a town or a city or a village with local tour guides who truly, beyond their passion, they know the stuff. And through their anecdotes and through their stories and through their recommendations when you had an hour free, they said, this is the coffee shop you need to go to. This is the best place for Wiener Schnitzel. This is the church, which is not on a tour, or temple that you need to go visit. So that was really special. The other thing, which was somewhat surprising, and I was somewhat skeptical, is that AMA Waterways partnered on this ship with 2 Arizona winemakers. Okay. And a lot of people, including myself, were saying, well, I know that Arizona produces wine, but it's not high on my radar screen like California or Oregon or Washington or New York. Right. Beyond the fact that these 2 gentlemen were such compelling and passionate speakers, their wines, Stuart, were extraordinary. And so you had this hot climate viticultural region, that is Arizona, juxtaposed with these cool climate wines from Germany and from Alsace. And it was glorious content that seemed very disparate, but just came together and left me just smiling and content and joyful.
I think it's only fair that we share with people who are viewing this now and enjoying this of what you do for a living, what your career is. Michael, for those who don't know you, what do you do? What's your mission? What's your elevator speech?
Stuart, you and I are the same. We do a lot of different things because we pursue a work life filled with passion. And I go back to a quote that Buddha said, if you love what you do, you will never work a day in your life. Indeed. So at the end of the day, I am in the business of pleasure, and I am in the business of happiness. And if I am creating happiness and joy and prosperity in other people's lives, I am going to be made even more happy and prosper even more. The core part of my business, though, is that I connect people through food and drink with experiential marketing. And this can be for corporations, it can be for hotels, it can be for cruise lines that call me in and want to redo their wine list or make more wine sales or things like that. So ultimately, as a consultant in that area, I help people make more money, and I help people create more meaningful engagement with their brand to consumers. Yeah. Now, your listeners and viewers should know that you and I are partnering together on a few things because we both share the same life force DNA. Yes. And we are partnering on several programs together. And one of them is that we are going to be taking a group onto AMA Waterways to experience what you've experienced and to experience what I've experienced. Because at the end of the day, when we're put in that grave, it's not about how much money you have. It's not about how many things you have. It's about how many meaningful experiences and connections did you share, did you make in your life. Mm-hmm. And Ama Waterways gave me that platform to be proud to be part of this family, that I really feel like I'm now family after being on the ship.
Yes.
And proud to partner with you on doing more work with this waterway, with Ama. It was lovely, absolutely lovely. So what I do for a living, I connect people with food and drink, but you also know that I have the world's first interactive wine tasting musical running on a large cruise ship. I created my first food documentary. I do many different things, but ultimately a lot of my work is speaking, and you and I obviously are doing more speaking in the travel category together. And it was such a happy day when you and I first met at a cruise conference, at the world's largest cruise conference.
Indeed, and I look forward to river cruising with you to enjoy this experience as I have. How fortunate to have experienced it twice with Ama, of course. And my wife and I, Kimberly, we can't wait to go back. A question for you that perhaps...
You do not need to twist my arm in that. I accept.
I knew you would. That's why we had it.
By the way, even though the content has not been developed yet, you and I have been throwing around some ideas. Mm-hmm. I want your fans to know this is going to be an extraordinary trip beyond the itinerary that is going to touch on elements of food and drink for sure, but happiness, wellness, and overall joy.
Indeed. And the crazy part is that for those who have experienced a river cruise, they'll get it. For those who have not or have not experienced Ama, you're starting off with a fabulous foundation. The river cruise experience is extraordinary, as we're talking about today, as you share your experiences with your first one. But when we layer on these other activities, these other elements, these other experiences, it's going to be exciting. So,
Indeed.
Let's help out some people out there, ask you just a few quick questions who have never done a river cruise before. They're hearing about it because it's certainly more people are talking about it as the word spreads. First question, your biggest surprise. You had preconceived notions, we all do, but when we see something, experience for the first time, there's always something that we're like, oh, I didn't realize that. Could you share one?
Sure, one. I'll tell you. Yeah. The size of the room.
Okay.
The size of the room.
Yeah.
I expected river cruise to be intimate for sure and tight, and I thought that would tie into the size of the room. The room was luxurious. It was actually more square feet than many larger cruise lines. So that was the first shocker. Okay. That was the first shocker. Stuart, I think that was the biggest surprise. I was so like, okay, I'm going to be on this intimate river cruise, but then getting into this room, which was so luxurious and so well appointed and so large and with a balcony, it was glorious. Yeah. So I think that's the first thing that comes to mind.
Okay. Next question, Michael. Was there something that while you were there, you wished you had brought that you would bring next time?
More friends.
That's a great answer.
More friends.
Yeah, I love it. That's terrific. How did that tying in Arizona wine, yet being on a river in Europe? I mean, how did that work from your perspective? Not only as a wine host, as a wine connoisseur, but also as a consumer. Did it work going there to learn about wines from here? How was that whole experience?
I didn't think it would work.
Right.
I was very skeptical, as I said earlier. Arizona wine, this great brand, Ama Waterways, partnering with Arizona wine, but they pulled the rabbit out of the hat. And let me tell you something, Stuart. I had such an extraordinary time. I'm now going out to Arizona for a few days to tour some of these wineries. And this is someone who has seen everything, who has traveled the world, blessed to travel the world,
Mm-hmm.
to taste wine, to eat fabulous food. And they made it work. They made it work. They took the time, and I think, frankly, it turned out that our cruise director, Sebastian Leroy, also happens to own a vineyard and make wine in Rudesheim. So he also was one of the pieces that brought it all together and worked out very well. Very well.
Excellent. I think that's important because some people have wondered that, and having experienced it myself, I see how it all ties in and connects. And wine is wine. The pleasure of it, the joy of it, pairing it up with foods. Another question for you. Somebody's out there saying, geez, I don't know, is it for me? Describe who you think would love this experience. Is there a way to come up with a composite description of the person who would enjoy this kind of experience? Because this is not a week on a beach in the Caribbean.
This is for someone who has already seen many parts of the world and has already seen and experienced many of the major cities. But being on a smaller vessel gives you an opportunity to go to different villages and different smaller cities that you would not be able to get access to if you were on a larger cruise line. That's one thing. I think also this is perfect for people who are looking to, as you're well aware, you unpack once, you're transported this glorious journey, however many days the cruise is, your room is cleaned twice, and I'm very happy. And they give me more shampoo. Even with my bald head, I ask for more shampoo. All this shampoo shows up. But anyway, as I said, I'm not just a consumer. I'm an advocate. I'm an advocate of what they do. But yeah, the biggest surprise I said earlier was the size of the rooms, and that was lovely. That was lovely. But I want to go back to what you were just saying. Who is it for? I think it's for people who want adventure, but also want comfort. I mean, this is luxury. This is luxury. This is affordable luxury. This is a high-end cruise for sure. But when you understand that all your meals are included and over your dinners and lunches, I believe all the wine is included, it's really modestly priced. And also what Ama Waterways does is that all the excursions are included in the price, or most of them. So it's really nice. You sort of like know what you're getting into rather than other cruise lines that you pay the fee, but from the second you get on board, ding, 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 you get it, you get it. And that wasn't the case on Ama Waterways.
I'm going to sneak one more in. Give us an example of one of the excursions you did that left a lasting memory, that brought a new culture or an experience, something educational, something that you really enjoyed.
I won't get overly emotional because this is a Skype call. I had my epiphany when I was 22 years old and felt a little lost in my career. And I had gotten laid off my first job out of college. And I didn't know what to do. And I had some money saved up. And I told my dad and mom that I wanted to go back to Europe, where I studied abroad for 2 years, and to go to visit my friends in Cambridge and Paris and Rome and all this stuff. And 2 weeks before I left, my dad gave me a piece of advice that I actually listened to. Okay. He said, Michael, in all the years that you worked in this wine shop with me, actually the oldest wine shop in America, where I started working with my dad at the age of 6, he said, in all the years, you've never been to visit a winery before. Can I set you up with a visit? And I'm saying to myself, sure, I want to go to the big cities and go dancing. But he set me up with a tour with a 12th generation winemaking family in Riquefier in Alsace. Okay. It was that day that changed my life, and I didn't know the journey that I would be on. But I had what I affectionately refer to many years later as that Jerry Maguire moment. That first 10 minutes when his mind is moving so fast. Anyway, Stuart, the memorable experience to me, I went back to Rikvir on this trip 28 years later and went to the same winery 28 years later that changed my life. And to me, that was pretty darn special.
Wow. That was a chance question, and it really captures the very essence of the whole experience. Thank you for sharing in such detail and such passion.
Sure.
Michael, any final takeaways before we let you go?
Of the many hundreds or thousands of things people might consider doing before they leave this planet, get on a river cruise. And the nice thing about AmaWaterways is that they have cruises all around the world. And as you know, I'm not a spokesperson for AmaWaterways. I'm an advocate, and I hope to partner with you to create an experience on AmaWaterways. But if you consider getting on a cruise, which your viewers should do, they should go on AmaWaterways.